Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. Nottingham Forest are out of the FA Cup after a 1-0 defeat to Manchester United as Casemiro scored a late win at the City Ground. Poor finishing, poor defending, substitutions too late. What was it that cost the Reds? We'll get into that in the company of, first of all, Reds fan Mark Sutherns. This is take two, we must confess. We thought we were live for about 2 minutes a couple of minutes ago, but something went wrong. But we are live now. So, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm slightly less upset and angry than I was 2 minutes ago. So you've got a slightly 2 minute better version of me now. So that's fine.
Good. Well, you're all right to be angry as we kick on. Don't worry. Second guest is Pete Blackburn. Pete, are you well?
Yeah, not bad. Slightly confused, having launched into a massive monologue that didn't go anywhere.
It was amazing as well, Pete.
It was. Relaunch into said monologue, Pete. Give us your take on what we've witnessed then.
Yes, I mean, ultimately a disappointing result. Obviously, we would have liked to go further in it. It felt like maybe a cut run would have been a little bit of magic that could have been injected a bit of something into the season, or even been a bright spark with things being a bit disappointing towards the end. But it feels to me like we were undone by familiar problems. I think giving away silly fouls and switching off when we're defending set pieces is obviously a bit of a story of the season for us. There was a few of those moments early in the first half as well that we got away with, but that was our undoing in the end. I'm not as down, I don't think, as some of the people around me. Some of the messages I've been getting, I felt like there were some positives in the performance. I mean, both teams were a bit poor, really, overall, I thought. An awful lot of really ropey finishing, and it felt like it sort of probably should have been quite a different result and a different game, really. But I thought it was a bit of a microcosm of our season. Plenty of threat, but just letting ourselves down in really crucial moments at the back. And we're analysing the game, feeling a bit disappointed because those little moments have gone wrong for us again. So yeah, disappointing. But I guess no extra time is probably a good thing for us. And the other positive, we don't have to watch Anthony and Rashford and Fernandes looking miserable and whinging like teenagers anymore. So that's something.
Yeah, and I don't have to hear Alan Shearer on co-coms anymore. We might come to that, but oh my word. There were two teams in that game, but you wouldn't necessarily have known it. Yeah, I mean, my disappointment was kind of like, we've been good at scoring goals. You produced the stats that we're actually good finishers, and tonight we weren't. We just kept hitting Onana time and time again. We let ourselves down there. And obviously the set piece, silly free kick, and we'll get into that. But what's your overall just disappointment and gripes with the game, or where we've lost it?
Yeah, I think we just went missing for the second half. I think like from about 70 minutes onwards, it was a weird second half. It was like, when two teams are playing in extra time and they're just playing for penalties. It's like that's what we were doing. It was like with an hour gone, 65 or 70 minutes gone, we were just like trying to just see the game out to penalties, even like there wasn't extra time to come after that. It was a really, really odd second half performance. We started the second half well, just like we did the first half. But then I don't know whether the energy went from our legs. There was just no purpose, no intensity. The substitution was a strange one. Origi at 78 and not Awani, who by that point was just a statue, didn't really have anything left. So I'm surprised that he got to 97 minutes. And Yates and Danilo had nothing in midfield. I didn't see, was Dominguez on the bench? Why wasn't Dominguez introduced? Because we just we didn't have any legs in the midfield, and we were just surrendering territory to them. They were coming. They didn't have much up front. They didn't really have any real threat. It was always going to be a bit of Kraft and Bruno that was going to undo us. And the thing that really makes me angry is if you're playing Forest, do you have a set piece coach who's got a bit of imagination, or do you have a player on the pitch who's got a bit of craft and guile, as Shearer put it, who can come up with something on the fly? If you've got either of those, fill your boots, because we're going to give you at least one goal. And that's exactly what it was. We got caught in the first half, in the first 5 minutes. Anthony couldn't have made it more obvious. He was standing just on the edge of the box, and it ended up with him and he hit the bar. And then, okay, the goal wasn't a rehearsed move. It was Bruno on the fly just going, right, I can see an opportunity. I'll stick it in the corridor of uncertainty, as the commentators like to call it. And Danilo didn't get to the ball. And for me, Turner isn't a factor in the goal, which is annoying. I think he's back on his line rather than being in an area where perhaps he could have affected that goal, and in the end it goes through his legs, makes it look like a bigger mistake than it is. But it's just the fact that any imagination, any kind of training ground move, we're so naive, or we're so asleep. And we can say at the end of the game we're tired and legs are gone, but it happened after 4 minutes when Anthony hit the bar. It was evidence then when we were at our most, awake and most energized. We gave away a set piece and they almost scored, and then we did it with minutes to go. So I'm tired of that being a problem, and I'm tired of us giving that opportunity to every side that comes up against us. It's pretty obvious they're going to cause us problems from set pieces. It happens time and time again.
Yeah, someone scored a set piece pulled back to the edge of the box against us, didn't they? I can't remember who it was. But I'm sure that's not the. I put in our WhatsApp chat.
It's the Trippier one. It's the Guimaraes
yes, the
one.
Trippier one. I mean, that's the one that identified the edge of our box as a weakness, definitely. Yeah.
Well, it's just we're not awake. I mean, you can look at the Tony goal. We're not awake to the fact he moved the ball. I mean, we're just something's happening where there's no one's watching from the sidelines about what's going on, and no one's watching on the pitch about what's going on, and no one's switched on to see what the opponent could do in any given opportunity. And like I say, we were caught early and we were caught late. So you can't say, oh, we were tired. It was a quality ball. Yeah, it was. But you've got to ask yourself why we're so frail at set plays. What is the set piece coach doing? Nothing from corners, nothing from indirect free kicks, and nothing from defending set pieces. Whatever that set pieces coach is doing, it's not affecting our attacking set pieces or our defensive set pieces. So what are they? What function are they doing? Where are we seeing their contribution on match day? We aren't.
Yeah. Thanks very much to Charlie Price and Andrew Hancock for becoming members. Appreciate the support from everyone who's signed up of late, especially Charlie and Andrew. What was your take on the goal then, Pete? I know, Mark, I thought Turner had a good game, but I'd like to see it back to see whether he was at fault. I kind of question more our setup because there's such a big space for Fernandes to hit, and I don't know if Danilo's at fault as well. What was your read on the goal?
Yeah, I won't steal Mark's analysis because if I'm honest about it, I wasn't questioning Turner until he started speaking to us before the podcast. My take on it from just watching it live was a bit of a similar problem to what we often have with just giving away fouls that just really don't seem like they need to happen. I don't know why Elang's just sort of dangling a limb in the way there, and it just really doesn't feel like that needs to be done. Elanga is so frustrating because he is such a positive influence on games, and he has so much thrust and dynamism when he's really no moments to think about the game whatsoever. But in those moments where you just need a bit of smarts, sometimes I feel like he just isn't there. And that probably applies to a lot of our team, to be honest. And I guess that's probably sort of why we are where we are. So I thought that was a problem. Then I guess having Danilo defending the near post is not ideal. It's not the person you would want there. It's a good ball. Like you said, there's a lot of space to attack. Yates is obviously blocked by Varane, I think, but I don't think he's anywhere near getting to the ball, so I'm not sure that's really a factor. I didn't spot Turner's issues with sort of, as Mark would describe, coming off the line and retreating. But for me, it just seemed like really familiar problems, giving away a cheap free kick and then just being really, really slow to respond to the danger, people just not attacking balls in the way they should be. Sometimes it feels like we're not defending these set pieces like our lives depend on it. And I mean, it feels like it should at this point. It's not new, and we're in trouble in the league. So I'm not really sure why it's not changing. It's a really obvious problem, but clearly it isn't changing. So yeah, it just felt like a sort of a rerun of something that I've seen so many times before from this Forest team, and that's just really disappointing, especially so late on in the game, I guess. Although Mark makes a good point that we had similar issues early on where we were switched off. So, yeah.
Yeah, as though, I mean, it was set pieces at both ends of the pitch, as Derek says. I thought Gibbs White put good balls in, but there's no variation on them.
No.
They're much easier to defend if you know what's coming, don't you?
I mean, you knock Alan Shearer, even he spotted. He said, he made a point in commentary that all our corners are going into the same area and that it's just whip it in and hope there's a touch. Like I say, like, what are we doing? Are we not coming up with anything else? Is there no invention at all? You know, in the time since we got that set piece coach in, we've conceded goals from set pieces more than we've looked dangerous. I mean, I just haven't seen anything at all in terms of imagination from our set plays. Nothing. So there's no evidence that set piece coach is doing anything that's contributing to our likelihood of scoring goals, which is surely what his contribution should be. It's just Gibbs White whipping the ball in. He's got more purposeful, I imagine, with his delivery. They look a little bit more dangerous, but it's the same thing every time. There's no ploy, there's no variation. And for Shearer to have the nous to spot it makes it clear that it's obvious to anybody, right? So why isn't... And you've got to think Marinakis, the story was he almost insisted that we got a set piece coach, didn't he? He can't be very happy with what the output is, can he? Because no one can be. So when are we going to see the evidence that that's making a difference at all? Because we don't know if he's playing a part in defensive set pieces. I think when you had Kelvin Wilson on before, he was doubting whether he would contribute to that. Okay, maybe not, but he should be contributing to attacking ones, and they were disappointing as well. And we had a lot of them. We had 4 or 5 corners in the first half. We had a couple of free kicks in the second half. And when you're a side that, doesn't have, we're not, a top 10 team in terms of quality, perhaps, set plays have got to work for us, and they're just not. And that's disappointing. Yeah,
that's a good point. When you look at other teams, Everton spring to mind, Luton spring to mind, they're better at set pieces than we are, certainly. Probably pick that up more tomorrow with Fletch and Greg are on the panel tomorrow, so we'll look at that. Mark touched on this earlier. I touched it on the intro, Pete. Nuno subs, they're generally quite like for like. I don't mind them. And he has been fairly proactive with them, I'd say. But I felt today, like Mark said, we looked gassed after 65 minutes. And I would have liked to have seen a couple come on earlier. Gio Reyna, again, is coming on in stoppage time. It feels like a really odd signing at this stage. Are you looking at Nuno and wondering, why not be a bit more proactive to go and win the game here?
I am in this game. It's not a gripe that I've generally had with him, and that may may just be me not being switched onto it. I'm not sure. I've seen a couple of comments saying that that's not the first time. Perhaps it's not. For me, I was thinking a fair 10 minutes or whatever earlier, then things started changing, that it looked like we were getting flat and the energy had gone out of the performance. I think Mark mentioned about getting Tayo off. I also thought Origi looked incredibly leggy, possibly because he'd made such a sort of strong impact in moments in the game in the first half and at the start of the second half. And it looked to me like he probably had sort of seen enough action for the night. And also, as you sort of mentioned, I guess, for once there were options on the bench. Dominguez is a potential big change maker from the way he sort of attacks and the intent that he brings to the pitch in sort of all facets of the game. You've obviously got Gio Reyna there. We don't know what he looks like in training and all that sort of thing, but clearly there's proven quality and ability. So it did seem odd to me that we hadn't made changes earlier, particularly given that some of these players are the footballers who haven't been playing an awful lot or are recovering from injuries or whatever, and we did have options to replace them. So I was surprised today, and that's not something I'm saying in hindsight, but also I should say that it's not a general criticism I've had of Nuno, so I wouldn't want to go sort of too footed in on him on it.
No, I wouldn't either. But in this game, in this occasion, like, we try and call what we see. I thought, let's go. There was an opportunity to win this game, and I didn't think we went for it early enough. Another decision that's been questioned by a few people. We touched on Elanga. A few people have said this to me. I've seen it on Twitter. What do you think about not putting Elanga on Amrabat? Because Origi, I think, did have a good game, Mark, but he tired, and I would have just liked to have seen him have 10 minutes on him earlier in the game. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was a surprise because they were like, I think Jenas was saying that he expected that to be the case, and then it clear it wasn't. Origi was playing on that side. Origi did well. I thought he had a good game. I thought he showed good touches in the first half and faded like everybody else in the second. It would have been nice to see Elanga have run at Amrabat. I wonder whether part of that was to keep Dalot back and not Dalot to be a factor that side, because obviously Dalot wasn't a factor coming forward. Amrabat did get forward, did invert at times, come into midfield. But Dalot is someone, he scored at the City Ground before, hasn't he, Dalot? So he has actually caused us a few problems getting forward in the past. I wonder if that's something to do. It's probably just the fact that Origi is more comfortable out there on that side, because we've seen him come on that side in a few matches. and he also started that side, didn't he, against Bournemouth when he got his start under Nuno. But yeah, it is disappointing. I think Elanga could have been a weapon for us against Amrabat. I think he did okay in the first half, but I just think when Elanga and Awani got into opportunities where we had United on the back foot, their decision making and their composure wasn't there, was it? I think that let us down. So when we did turn United round, we didn't make the most of it, and that was disappointing from an attacking standpoint. But that's not, again, as you can probably tell, that's not the biggest frustration for me on the night.
No. I did see someone in the comments say that Sells isn't injured, so we'll follow that up because I really hope he's not, obviously. Although, I mean, Turner, like I said, I thought Turner had a good game tonight personally. But what did you make of the team selection, Pete? Was it strong enough for you, or would you like to have seen us go absolutely full tilt tonight?
I didn't have any particular problems with it. I mean, I guess the thing is, at this stage of the season, with a lot of games happening and also the injury records and recent injury records of our players, you sort of have no sense really of what their level of fitness and match sharpness and availability to play is. So with a team selection like this, it could have really been anything for me, and I wouldn't have been too surprised. I was pretty surprised that Felipe was playing because it's very soon after he started another game, although admittedly he didn't play the whole game. But given what we know about his injury issues, that sort of surprised me a fair bit. And there's a lot of talk before about whether Taiwo might be rested. I sort of wonder with him whether getting minutes and playing games is really important in terms of getting him back to sharpness, and that's what he really needs. So perhaps that's the case with him, although he's obviously played a lot of football tonight. And there's another important game coming at the weekend, so who knows? But no, I wasn't desperately surprised with the team selection, and I didn't have a problem with any of it, I don't think, to be honest. I certainly would have picked Sells if he was available, and I'd just stick with him now for all games, although, the league is obviously the only ones we're picking for now. So no issues for me. I think bringing Yates in made sense to me. Bringing Toffolo in made sense to me. Both players that I've called for being in the team before, so certainly couldn't criticise now. Origi, I guess, is probably the only one that I personally had sort of written off. So a bit more humble pie for me there, I suppose. I thought he came in and looked really, really bright for 60-odd minutes. Probably the person who looked like he was going to have a big impact on the game, if anyone, actually. And certainly in terms of slipping Taiwo through, which he must have done at least 3 or 4 times. And also creating a couple of good shooting opportunities for himself. But as the story of the game was, every time we got in a good position, the finish wasn't there, or it was just straight at the keeper. But yeah, no, I had no problems with the team selection, and plenty of positives in there as well. In a sense, in that Nico continues to build. I think he's going from strength to strength, and that's lovely to see because fullbacks don't look like we've got an awful lot of them fit at the moment. If you look at the bench, I thought Toffolo did a good job, both defensively and in the moments where he got forward and he had that brilliant whip ball across. And as I say, Origi coming in and performing gives us an option in those attacking areas off the bench, potentially, if he's not starting and Hudson-Odoi is, or starting, which is pretty refreshing given the importance of the games coming up, and that it has often looked like the bench is a bit thin. So I guess the team selection has probably proven a few positive things in a sense. If I'm going to try and claw some positives out of losing the game tonight in a slightly iffy performance.
Yeah, I mean, where's Kevin's comment? Sorry, I find Taiwo's situation fascinating. Like he's played 90 minutes, and I think he probably would have played extra time tonight if needed. And like Mark said, I thought he looked fit at the start. He was pressing and harrying, but by the end, he's clearly knackered. So yeah, it's interesting how they're managing his minutes, and I'll kind of bow to the sports science knowledge at this stage because they see more than we do. But it did seem interesting, certainly. There was another member I must thank. Sorry. Dave, thank you very much for becoming a member, Dave. Very good of you. Morgan Gibbs White, Mark, I was gone on Instagram while I was just checking it while Pete's talking. I don't know if have you seen it?
No, go on.
Okay. He's Sport Bible put a picture out highlighting how Van Dijk's goal in the Carabao Cup final, the first one, was ruled out for offside. With a different player, I think it's Endo who's offside, and then tonight Varane standing marginally offside. So he's obviously not happy with it. I don't really have a gripe with it personally, but what about you?
Yeah, but that was a blatant block on on the defender, on Colwill, that's why he was given offside. I don't think the block was as blatant in what I saw tonight. And Colwill would have been in the area where the ball arrived, and was that really the case tonight? So I wasn't that aggrieved by that decision, but maybe we need to see it more times. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's only an offside issue if it's stopping a player who can actually challenge for the ball, right? So
yeah,
I mean, it looked pretty clear to me that wasn't the case. I really don't think we can be moaning about that. And I'm sure Morgan's frustrated, and I get that, but I think we could probably look at ourselves tonight before we're moaning about VAR.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't see it, but I thought I'd raise it because he's just put it on Instagram pretty soon after the match. So I thought it was of interest. The centre backs and the full backs. I mean, we bemoan them at Villa, Mark. I thought they were good tonight. I thought Murillo and Felipe feels more like the last home game against West Ham. Nico again. I think his progress defensively this season's been really good because he was rocky last season. Toff was good. So I feel obviously we're clutching straws, but they were good tonight, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Felipe didn't. I don't think he put a foot wrong. He looked more assured. There was talk after the Villa game. Oh, that's his last game for Forest, and his best is gone. And obviously, I thought tonight's performance kind of put that to bed. I don't think that's the case at all. I was surprised he started, just because does that mean he's not going to start against Liverpool? Perhaps Omar Deli is the better option because Liverpool, probably won't. They'll play to feet, and it'd be more about pace, I expect. So maybe that is the better option over Felipe. But then they do have Van Dijk at set pieces, and we're a little bit weak at set pieces, so that's a worry. I thought there were some positives there. And I mean, Nico, like you say, I think is really growing as a player before our eyes week after week. I think he's looking more sound defensively. He's looking more. He's causing opposition problems coming forward with his energy. Right, he's pretty tireless, and you can see he's building confidence in the team with start after start. So I like what I see from him. Just on Taiwo's minutes, it is odd because he was taken off at half time at Villa when we've just scored a goal. Perhaps momentum was swinging our way, and Nuno takes him off and brings Origi on. And the talk afterwards was, oh no, that was the plan. So was that substitution of Taiwo, was that made with the idea that he would play 90 minutes tonight? Presumably it was, but and like you say, you've got to bow to they've offered the sports scientists, and Nuno's got more insight into his fitness. But it is a strange decision to take him off in a league game, which arguably is more important, having just got back into the game, in order to preserve him to play 90 minutes tonight ahead of Liverpool Saturday. It's a bit, like you say, it's a bit of an odd chain of events, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it certainly was. I didn't really understand. I'd be interested to hear Nuno's post-match comments, really, if he gets asked about stuff like that and team selection. And obviously Matt Sells, hopefully he'll be asked about as well. Quick word for our sponsors before we move on to a few incidents in the game. Thanks very much, as ever, to Trent Navigation for their support. It is Thursday tomorrow. So it's quiz and pie night tomorrow, £8.50. And so go and enjoy a cheap dinner there, which is also good food, and I think it might be quiz night as well. So yeah, thanks for the Nav for their support.
I wish you wouldn't show the pie this time of night, because that just means I'm going to go and have something.
Are you hungry now?
Bed now? Yeah, if you show a picture of a pie, it makes me hungry. Of course it does. I'm only human.
Let's look at a few of the chances in the game there. I mean, we did create opportunities, Pete, in the first half. We got in good positions, I felt. I've written down here, Origi Bright, a Awoniyi save, Awoniyi hit, good save. Nico blasted one over the bar. But equally, though, Man United had opportunities, didn't they? I mean, Matt Turner made a really good save, and McTominay probably should have scored. It was a decent first half, but we didn't have that cutting edge, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've not looked at the XG. I'm guessing Mark probably has, but it looked to me like the Man United chances in the first half were a fair bit more clear cut. We had lots of moments. Taiwo was, I mean, just back to the Taiwo chat, I did think there was a visible difference in the first half today in the way he was moving. He seemed so much less cumbersome. His movement looked a lot sharper to me. He obviously got behind quite a few times. So I guess that's a positive to take. Yeah, I thought the United chances looked, a lot better quality than ours. But we did create those moments where we're getting in behind. That Nico effort was a lovely sort of slashed finish across goal. Just just slightly high and wide. There's a couple of moments where Elanga and Taiwo sort of seem to get in each other's way slightly in that left channel, which is a bit of a shame, I suppose. Some of those things, I guess, just sort of summed up the game for me, or certainly the sort of Forest attacking part of it. It was nearly us at our not best, but in that sort of good vein where we are attacking with intent and we're quick and we get Gibbs White running through the middle and Origi was cutting in and making opportunities. But just when we got to the final moments, it was either sort of slightly bumbled or the shot was just a bit weak or directly the keeper or whatever. So it just sort of didn't really feel like it was quite working out for us. I don't know whether that is just unfortunate on the night or what really, but it didn't feel like our chances, any of them, I don't think, were sort of gilt-edged. I mean, Taiwo made an awful lot, I think, of that chance where he drove the ball out wide and whipped it across goal. I don't think he could have done much better than that. And I suppose in those moments, you're just hoping that there's an Elanga at the back post who's gambled and made the run and the ball falls for them. And maybe on another night that would happen. But yeah, I was positive at halftime because I thought we were creating chances and those moments were good. But it just didn't really come off for us, did it? And we really seriously did ride our luck as well. I mean, we definitely could or probably should have been trailing, particularly after those first couple of United chances.
Yeah, I think as Richard says, Origi probably did have the best half of the best chance of the first half. Certainly, the other thing we couldn't do, Mark, really, we know United leave these gaping holes in midfield, and I think they were there tonight. Gibbs White had a chance early on where he broke through and he took a pretty tame side-footed shot. We just didn't. I don't think we exploited United's weaknesses well enough. Personally, I don't know if you. What did you make of that area?
No, I think particularly in the second half when the energy just sat from our legs. I don't think Gibbs White found that pocket of space often enough. And it was funny, as Taiwo tired, it was Gibbs White who was playing centrally, almost like he realised that Taiwo was gassed out and he had to get up front to be able to hold the ball up, and that was our best chance of building. So I think as Taiwo tired, Gibbs White was taking up different positions and wasn't in that space anymore when that was the part of the game where we could have caught them. Yeah, we just lost all momentum. We had a very good first 20 minutes in the game in the first half, and then we had a good 10 minutes in the second half. We just couldn't sustain any form of control outside of that period. And as I said, we just surrendered it. And I did think we were going to get caught eventually, and I wouldn't have minded if the goal perhaps came from open play and it was a bit stroke of genius from Bruno or whatever. He had a couple of opportunities where he nearly curled one in, and if that had gone in, then I would have been fair enough. We missed our opportunity and they scored a good goal. It's just the nature of the goal that annoyed me because it was just typical. And we didn't show enough attacking intent in that second half. We didn't sustain it long enough, and I don't know what the reason was. If it was tiredness, if it was fatigue, why didn't Dominguez come on? We can see when Dominguez starts a game, he runs himself into the ground for 70 minutes. So 20 minutes of Dominguez might have won the game for us because he's got so much energy, so much tenacity. That's exactly what we lacked for so much of that second half. Yates and Nuno just shrunk to be, they were tracking back, but they didn't have any energy, and they certainly didn't have any craft to do anything with the ball when we did turn it over. So I was just disappointed that Nuno didn't bring Dominguez on. I don't know what the reason was behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I assume if he's on the bench, I assume he's fit enough to play some part. I'm just looking at our bench tonight. Hudson-Odoi, Reina, Ribeiro, Kouyaté, Dominguez, Niakate, Blakadimos, Omobamidele and Joe Gardner. So there were options there, and he did get them on. I just think he got them on too late, apart from Dominguez, who he didn't get on. So, yeah, bit of a strange one. I suppose, Pete, as well, like our defensive shape was pretty solid. We didn't look like being broken down. So it just goes back to just that same old frustration that we just can't see a game out, I guess, which is probably one of the big reasons we are where we are.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to know what to say about it, isn't it? Because, I mean, Mark must feel like this because he's done so many of these post-match streams where it's, the same old stuff over and over again. So it is hard to know what to say about it. I mean, that defence tonight and the game against West Ham, if we hadn't have had this horrendous mess in between those two games, I'd be feeling pretty positive about certainly what they can do in the majority of open play. it feels like there's a partnership there between Felipe and Murillo if Felipe can be fit. Nico is making great strides, and I'm absolutely loving seeing that. I think he's nailed down that spot. We've got 2 or 3 options at left back, depending on whether Rayner's fit, and obviously Tavares is going to be coming back from injury. It looks like that might be a while, but if he gets back, we've got options there. So I sort of feel like we shouldn't necessarily be feeling that negative about that defence, but then they just go and do what they do. And it's just, it's sort of hard to come back from that, isn't it? But, the majority of open play in both of those home games, West Ham and tonight, feels pretty reassuring. They look pretty solid against, pretty high-end attacking players, really, if you list I'm sure many of us have got our gripes with the likes of Anthony and such like, but, these are expensive, well-thought-of footballers when you add together the United ones and Bowen and whatever. So should be sort of quite positive about that. But as ever with Forest, it just seems like you have these sort of positive moments and trends in games, but the things they do to throw it away are so brutal and so sort of, basic, I think would be a fair word to use, but it is really simple stuff, and it's even more sort of guttural and painful because of that, I think. So it's sort of hard to know how to feel about that, really.
And there was moments in the second half at 0-0, Mark, where I felt like we were on top. I've written down here, Ilanga put Taiwo in, wasn't the greatest pass. They got in each other's way again, I thought, after a good pass by Yates, and he drew a save from Onana, but it wasn't the most difficult, and then Origi smashed one at Onana. Should we be doing better in those positions, really?
Yeah, the Origi chance reminded me of Murillo at Palace, where he did so well and then blasted it straight down the keeper's throat, which was so disappointing because either side of him, and that was possibly in. And it was so unfortunate because he'd done so well to beat his man and then set up the shot. And Ilanga had a chance. Gibbs White had chance. They were half chances, I would have said, where it just needed one of those to have a bit of quality behind it, and we never quite found that bit of quality. Aberney had shots, never quite. I think the one where he was put through, he could have perhaps done better with that. If you look at the replay, it's too close to the keeper, obviously, where a yard either side, perhaps it would have worked Onana more. He is a good shot stopper, Onana. That's his strength. So, he's a good keeper. You expect him to make that save, though, because I don't think Aberney worked him hard enough. So those chances are, looking back, it's disappointing we didn't take them, but it's not the biggest disappointment. And I don't know whether, you can't look at the back four at that set piece. It's the whole team. It's just like being alive. It's surely when we've conceded as many goals as we have at set pieces, the coaching staff are saying, right, at a set piece, you've got to be switched on. Someone's got to be organising and looking for where the dangers are. What could happen in this scenario here? And when you've got a player like Bruno taking the free kick, who is so imaginative and so open to opportunities, you've got to kind of think about where the danger is, and we just don't seem to have anybody on that pitch or anybody on the side of the pitch who's awake and alive to it at all. And we've got to prepare our team for all those eventualities. When there's a free kick in that position, what are the options he's got? And we put Ilanga out there to kind of, I don't know what the point of Ilanga being there was, because I think it was pointed out in commentary, why not have a 2 or 3 man wall to make Bruno knock it into the air over the top? And we didn't do that. I just don't know. There must be some coaching going on, and there must be someone trying to make us aware of the dangers at set pieces, but it's just not sinking in, or there's just not a leader on the pitch who's coordinating things at set pieces. And I don't, that's what really frustrates me, because we've got to be more switched on. And I think naive is the best word. We're just open and exposed every time the opponent gets a set piece. And I don't think it's on the back four. I just think it's the whole team need to be coached better in those scenarios.
Let's turn our attention just for the last 5 minutes or so, just to find out how you chaps feeling about the Liverpool game. They've won 3-0 tonight against Southampton with kids scoring. Neil Danz's son, I can't remember his first name, so he scored twice. The other scorer is Kumas, who's probably Jason Kumas' son.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. They're just, they're like championship football manager regens, aren't they?
Yeah.
Liverpool players now. How are you feeling about the game, Pete? Now, I mean, we don't know what shape Liverpool are going to rock up in, but obviously they're going to be good. So, do you take any hope and optimism into the match on Saturday?
Yeah, because why? I mean, you've got to, haven't you? I mean, they're obviously very good. They've got an awful lot of very good players, although hopefully some of them won't be available. But fundamentally, football's not really about being that stressed about it. I don't think. I'm going. How I'm going on Saturday is I'm going to go and have a great day with my friends and family, and hopefully Forest will turn up and give us another one of those joyful moments like they did at home against Liverpool last season. And I imagine we'll do it in a very different way if we do it, because this Nuno team looks quite a lot different to Cooper's team. And if we're going to have a sort of famous victory, then it's probably going to be by scoring several goals, because we'll definitely concede a couple. But you've got to be hopeful, haven't you? Because what's the point otherwise? It's not exactly a sort of powerful statistical analysis of the game or anything, but I'm going to go into it feeling pretty positive and hoping we can come out with something, because otherwise there wouldn't really be much point in me going. And we can definitely do it. We've had lots of famous moments at home since we've been promoted. Perhaps less so this year, but there's no reason why it can't happen again. I think we've got an awful lot of quality on the pitch, and if we could just finally get it right in terms of cutting out some of these moments, then who knows what can happen. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive.
There's a lot of angry people in the comments tonight. Why aren't you blaming Nuno? Why aren't you calling Nuno out? We've literally spent 20 minutes talking about the subs and strange team selection at times, poor subs. Mark's absolutely battered the set pieces. So I'm not sure what people, we are saying. I think Nuno was at fault tonight. So yeah, there you go. But I still think he's done a good job overall. But the question is, what he's done tonight. How are you feeling about the Liverpool game, Mark? Because there are still reasons for optimism, I think. But obviously, we're going to have to. We've done kind of 90% of the job in some senses tonight, but the last 10% we consistently fall short, and we can't do that against the top side, I guess, can we?
No, I mean, there's no question this is a good time to play them. They've just played midweek like we have. And I noticed Diaz didn't come off the bench. So for me, that indicates that perhaps, Salah and Darwin aren't going to be back, because I think he probably would have started Diaz, or at least given him minutes if there was a chance that he would have options at the weekend. So I'm hoping that Salah and Darwin aren't going to be a factor in the game. If that is the case, and they're going to start Diaz, Dakpo and Elliott as a front three, they've got injuries in midfield. If you look at the bench tonight, they're looking to kids, right? They've got McAllister, who didn't start. So I think, if you're Luton, if you're Everton, you're probably looking at us playing this Liverpool side and thinking, damn, why? It's a bit unlucky, because normally they'd look at that and think there's no way Forest are going to get anything from that game. But I look at it and think there's a chance for at least a point, maybe even 3, because we've beaten them before when they've had a team that's perhaps second string to some extent. And that will be the case at the weekend. They'll turn up with an 11 that I don't think will be near their full strength 11. So it is an opportunity. But, sitting here now, what's the likelihood of, if we are going to lose the game, what's the likelihood of how we're going to lose it? Well, a couple of set pieces, Van Dijk scoring one, and we're caught out. I mean, that's what, if you were going to predict if we were going to lose, that's how we would lose that game. Hopefully that doesn't turn out to be the case. Hopefully we manage the game well, we don't give them opportunities from set plays, or we're awake at set plays, and we expose the fact that they've got a weaker lineup than they would normally have. Dominguez hopefully was saved for that game, so he'll start. I think maybe Omobamidele will come in perhaps for Felipe, because I don't see him starting 3 games in a week. And hopefully the minutes in Awani's legs tonight don't take it out of him for the weekend, because we need him fresh and being a threat, which he can be.
Yeah, that was going to be my other point, Pete. I just find team selection fascinating for this game, because I look at Van Dijk and he looks like he's going to score every corner. So I wouldn't play on Bamidele. I'd prefer to see Felipe. Yes, I know we conceded from a set piece tonight, but he's still a better defender of the dead balls, I would say. And then Taiwo, looks absolutely knackered, and he's going to. We're playing again on Saturday, so I just like team selection is going to be all eyes at 2:00, I guess, isn't it? And see what rocks up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess we can only hope that they know what they're doing. because I presume they know that we're playing Liverpool at the weekend. So that planning is available to them. I agree. I agree on both counts. I would be a bit concerned if Felipe wasn't in the team, I guess, because aerially he's definitely stronger than the rest of the candidates if Bolly's not available. But also, it obviously doesn't always show, but every time you see a sort of wide lens camera of them trying to get organised and stuff, Felipe's the one doing the talking. And it may be the case that his talking is dreadful because the outcome's not great. But, I sort of think we need some of that in the team. And there are probably questions to be asked about the sort of leadership and the mentality around the side at the moment. So I think it does feel like we sort of need him. And those games against West Ham and tonight, I do think he's made a difference. So I sincerely hope that they're both available. But it's hard, isn't it? And it's hard to know without access to any of that sort of data or the sports science side of things. So in line with my last answer, I guess it's just a case of hoping they know what they're doing and fingers crossed.
It'd be ironic, wouldn't it, if we go from where Felipe's finished to Felipe plays 3 games in a week.
Yeah.
Maybe Niakate will start, and is he better in the air than Bamadelli? Yeah, probably marginally. But yeah, I would be worried without a physical presence like Felipe in the side, because Van Dijk at the moment just looks pretty unplayable at set pieces, doesn't he? So if the delivery is good, I don't think we've got anyone who can pick him up if it's not Felipe. Chelsea really struggled with him. He scored 2 goals against them there. He scored in the previous league game as well. So he's on a run at the moment. And I think I texted you earlier in the week and said Van Dijk's probably the biggest goal threat they've got if Salah and Darwin are out against us. Because I think we could probably handle Gakpo and Diaz. I think we've got players who can look after them. They are quality and they can bring something out of nothing. But I'm going into Saturday thinking the biggest player I'm worried about is Van Dijk.
Yeah, so if Nuno doesn't play and Salah doesn't play, because we completely handled Rashford, although he's a shadow himself tonight, and Fernandes was handled in open play. Obviously, set pieces went wrong. So, yeah, I know people aren't optimistic in the comments, but hopefully when we wake up tomorrow, we'll feel at least some hope. But we'll see. We've shown we can score goals against teams. Tonight, I hope was an off night, and we still created chances, but our finishing was strangely poor. And I hope Taiwo is better at it on Saturday. If Taiwo starts, there's a small part of me wonder if he's going to be benched now, and Origi's going to start against his old club. I can't see it, but maybe
he saved Reina. I don't know. Like you said earlier, I don't know what's going on with Reina. I don't know what the logic is for him not getting more minutes tonight. Because arguably he could have come on and Gibbs White could have gone into a midfield position. So why didn't that happen? As it's very strange, isn't it? Yeah.
True. Right. People telling me. Simon says I'm too positive. Maybe I am. I don't know.
This has not been a positive podcast.
No.
I feel quite depressed about it, to be honest. I don't know what these people are watching.
Blimey.
Yeah. Right. Any final words before we depart, Pete?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'd like to throw myself behind your comments about just how sort of negative everything is. There's a long way to go yet. I really do think we need to be careful about getting ourselves into a really negative mindset. We've seen plenty of positives under Nuno's management to think there are reasons to believe. There's an awful lot of work to do to cut out some of this basic stuff. But the good news is it feels like it should be basic. So maybe eventually they'll get it right, and fingers crossed they do. Also, just one other thing, I'm really not having everyone slagging off Taiwo in the comments. If you're doing that, I really do think you need to take a long, hard look at yourself, because that guy has done an awful lot for us and given us some pretty brilliant moments in the Forest shirt. And he was trying his best out there tonight, and he wasn't altogether that far away from having an impact on the game. Sometimes maybe he looks a bit sloppy or his finishing isn't as precise as it could be. But there's an awful lot of Premier League teams who'd be very happy to have him in their squads. And he seems like a pretty good lad as well to me. So I'd give it a rest on that front for a little while.
It's only like last weekend he's scoring a great goal against West Ham to give us, a crucial lead. So he looked cumbersome against Villa. I thought he was all right tonight, apart from his finishing, and I hope that's an off night, because the statistics show that he's a good finisher. Normally, he's been, one of the best finishers in the Premier League. So, yeah, I would assume it's a bit of a blip, and I'd certainly back Taiwo to come back. And he scored against Liverpool last season, so I don't see why he can't do it again. Final words from you, Mark, before we go.
I'm already getting tired of the figure of fun that Clattenburg's become. It's just a gift to the commentators, isn't it? It was there again tonight. I just every time we're on TV or radio, they're going to go, and there's Mark Clattenburg, who's brought in as a referee analysis. What do you make of that? X. And they did it again tonight. And I'm just like, oh, God, what have we done here? We've just invited that onto ourselves, haven't we? Because everyone seems to have an opinion on it, and it's not a very positive one. So that was a bit annoying again today from the commentators. But fair enough. We're going to get a lot of that still to come, I expect.
Yeah, we are. I can sort of see some. Well, if it produces some tangible results and there's benefits to it, I don't know if there's going to be, but I assume he's making a decent wedge out of it. So let's hope we get something positive from it in the final weeks of the season. Someone, I think it was Boynesy, said in the comments as well, like, these games aren't the ones that decide our season. I think all eyes on Luton, really. The next two games are bonus games if we can get a point against Liverpool and a point against Brighton. I mean, Brighton, we haven't talked about it yet, but they're not having a great time of it. They barely won a game of late. The game they won against Sheffield United was after Holgate absolutely, ninjaed poor old Mitoma, who's now out for the rest of the season as well, which is a big blow for them. So, yeah, we shall see how it goes in the next couple of weeks, but I think we'll leave it there. I was going to say, if you've enjoyed this, I don't know. If you've tolerated this and haven't got too mad at us, do us a favour. Hit like, hit subscribe, consider becoming a channel member, and give us a good review on iTunes would be very much appreciated. I should also thank Anthony Harrington, Andy Packham, and Simon F. for becoming channel members during the stream, and anyone else who has Charlie, Andrew, and Dave. All very good of you. Right, back tomorrow, 11 a.m. with Fletch, who's always interesting. You see what he made of it, and Greg, who's always upbeat. So yeah, do join us for that if you can, and we'll focus a bit more on Liverpool and get the lads' take on this game. Right, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. I obviously need to be more angry and more negative, which is hard to believe. I'm not sure how many levels I've got of that, but I'll bear that in mind.
Well, people who are a bit downbeat now are saying they love the stream still, and it was a great job. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to have debate, and obviously passions run high after the game because we all want Forest to do well. And tonight was disappointing too. It was a missed opportunity, but hopefully we're all one big happy family again come tomorrow. Pete, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I also don't really want to be on if Mark's forced to be even more negative and angry. We don't need that.
I fear for Greg tomorrow, hopefully.
I know. We'll have more positivity on Friday because Prutz is on with Pete's back and maybe Greg as well. Well, Greg will be on when he knows Prutz is on. Let's be honest. And then Saturday, Liverpool post match is Mark. God, the absolute warrior of this podcast, turning out for post match streams. Lots for punishment. Mark and Chris Aylmer from Forest All Over will be with us for that. And then we'll turn our attentions next week. In fact, Lewis is confirmed for Monday as well. So, yeah, do join us for that. Appreciate the support. Appreciate your company tonight. Sorry it didn't go well for Forest, but tomorrow is a new day and hopefully we shall see you then.